I got this question. It was about the QL, the Quadratus labradorum. It was from Sun Kills Moon, and he asks, I was wondering if you have any tips or can do a video on how to even out my QL. It is so tight on the left side. I can't squat or deadlift, and it's breaking his heart. I'm right there with you, brother. I feel the same exact way. Well, I used to anyway. I'm learning to come to terms and understand my situation better and have a much smarter approach if you haven't watched my previous videos. But how to even out your QL? Well, let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about the muscles of the body. Understand that the QL is a very, very small muscle. It's much thinner and smaller than the bicep. You got to realize that when your QL gets pissed off, it's essentially like one of the very last links of the chain. If you think about it, really the last link of the chain is the bone, right? So you think about your glutes, then you got your lower back, and then you got your glutes, you got your lats, you got your stomach muscles and lower back muscles, and then you got your QL, and then you got your spine. So I just gave you that order specifically because that's sort of the muscles that all work together in unison. And when each of those muscles aren't able to do their job based on whatever activity you're doing, one by one, each of those will fail. And this is kind of why weak glutes are a culprit for a lot of people's issues. The only problem with saying your glutes are weak, it doesn't help a lot of people because there's a lot more to the problem, because it's more about the pattern that's important. You can't just do a bunch of glute bridges and do a bunch of glute kickbacks and expect to solve your problem. However, even though that's not the only way, that's not the way to solve your problem completely, it will help, because the idea is the QL, your lower back muscle, essentially underneath the spinal erectors. If you don't know what the QL is, it's sort of like a triangular shape almost muscle that attaches to the bottom part of the ribs on your backside to the top of your pelvis, and it's very thin. And I know it's thin because I had a chiropractor client of mine. He's a chiropractor. He said that he did a dissection in an anatomy class, and he remember seeing it. It's super thin. Especially if you're more developed and you're a bigger human being, it'll probably be thicker, but it's still a relatively small muscle. So you think about trying to even out your QL. Your QL is not the problem. It is the problem specifically. So you can roll it out to relieve it. You can maybe put ice, or you can put warm on it. Some people say don't put ice, but essentially when it's pissed off, you want to do anything you can to not have it hurt anymore. And essentially that means do stuff that doesn't make it hurt and stuff that makes it feel better. And I'll tell you right now that the QL, spinal erectors, when those muscles get pissed off, hip flexors, psoas, the reason they get pissed off is because the muscles like the glutes, the muscles like the stomach of bracing your core are not able to function the way they're supposed to, or they're not functioning at the moment. And because you're sacrificing technique and form, and again, that's still very broad for me to even say that you're sacrificing technique and form. You are sacrificing positions. That's a much more accurate way of saying it. You're sacrificing positions to get to a certain place in the squat or in the deadlift. You're essentially squatting down lower. Like, who would ever thought that, for example, not having good ankle flexibility could affect your deadlift? It can. It affects how you get the bar off the ground. It affects how well you can shift your hips back and the center of gravity of where the barbell sits. It's actually a big factor, or it can be a big factor. But if you're strong, you can overcome these problems. But then you get to a point where it all catches up with you. And it's just a matter of time before our shortcomings of lack of range of motion catches up with us. And that's what the thing about strength training is, that you can keep getting stronger, you keep getting better. But once you start pushing your limits, pushing volume, pushing reps, pushing sets, pushing maxes, and getting close to those PR numbers, and not just single rep maxes, but triple rep maxes, 3 rep maxes, and volume workouts, best workout with 5 sets of 10, for example, or something like that, or 10 sets of 5, whatever program you're following, is your body is having little small mini car accidents in your joints, or your muscle, or let me be more specific. It's like as you squat, or as you just use a squat, for example, if you're lowering your body and you don't have proper dorsiflexion, your knee's going to move weird, right? So essentially the muscles of your spine have to sort of give up the slack so that your knees don't get irritated. So it's kind of like, is it your lower back that's going to have to give up some of its good positioning, or is it your knee that's going to give up its positioning? So it's kind of, this is how it all works. It's like the body is this thing where it is it has, I guess, negotiation power or certain resources and flexibility, the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulders. And when you don't have enough ankle range of motion, your knee is going to have to give up some of that range of motion in some way. And then if your body feels like it's giving up too much range of motion in the knee because it's going to get irritated, it's going to put more focus in putting it into your hips, low back, and it's going to go up to the shoulders. And your body finds a way to compensate. If you're lifting a heavy weight for rep maxes, or pushing yourself, you're getting to points where you're, again, having mini car accidents in the joint. And this is kind of what this comes down to, is full range of motion. Getting full range of motion is the culprit for why people get hurt. Why your QL is irritated is because the dog, or I should say the tail, is wagging the dog. You know, just to further explain that analogy, think about that for a moment. A dog has a tail and it wags it, right? But instead, the tail, which is a small thing, is wagging a gigantic animal. And that's what's happening to your QL. Your QL is the dog. You are the dog. You are the animal. And then you have your lower body, which is essentially your tail, or your butt is your tail. And what's happening is that your tail, or it means what's happening is the tail of your body, your glutes, your lower body is wagging, shifting around your QL, your spine, and making it have to deal with the powerful engine and muscles of the glutes, hamstrings, and all the muscles and the musculature at the bottom. It could be not just that, could just be the glutes or the legs. It could be the fact that you don't have proper ankle flexibility, which is causing you to shift. You know, that could be the reason. I mean, there's lots of different reasons why this happens. And again, the process is a little bit more complicated, but it's understand that when you see someone squat or you watch someone squat, you can kind of see if it's good or bad. Now, you don't necessarily have to be a coach to say, oh, I know what's wrong, but you know it doesn't look good. There's something wrong about it, and you don't know what it is. Again, I've talked about this in another video recently. Is like, talking yesterday's video, I talked about Johnny Candido, Dan Green, and Rich Froning. You watch these guys squat. When you look at it, it looks great. And it's almost like it's flawless. It's a perfect squat. I mean, they're struggling. They're pushing themselves, especially Dan Green when he's going for a PR or he's doing really heavy weight, or even Johnny Candido as well, but they still move really, really well. They don't give up position. They're flawless, and that's the reason why they've been able to train for that long and make progress for that long. Is being able to understand that the tail needs to be wagged by the animal, and not the other way around. Because the thing is, the tail cannot wag the whole body, and then when that happens, your QL, your spine has to take the force. And that's what happens when you tighten your core. It helps secure that, but still, even if you use your core to secure that bad movement, it's still going to ultimately come down to improving patterns with lower body, using your glutes, having proper flexibility. Proper flexibility that you train in a pattern. You continue to do the movements that you're not, essentially have limits in. So if you don't have proper, if you're having a QL problem, lower back spasm, or some issue, that stuff happens over time. It occurs because you're moving wrong for too long, for too much volume over days, weeks, months, or it could be a single day. It could be some abrupt incident or abrupt kind of wrong tweak, how you get tweaked. But understand that a lot of the time, it's the ongoing chronic poor pattern that occurs over time. Having flat feet, not having proper ankle range of motion. It's all a process of your body compensating mini compensations over and over again that ultimately lead to other muscles getting overused. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because you want to get stronger, so you got to push yourself. But as you push yourself, you increase the risk of getting injured the more you move bad, or the more muscle imbalances you have. And maybe not muscle imbalances, but poor motor patterns, which is the result of having muscle imbalances due to lifestyle.